I took the night watch job because it paid better than anything else I could find on short notice. No customers, no coworkers, no real responsibilities beyond staying awake and logging hourly patrols. After my last contract fell through, I needed something stable fast. Rent was due, savings were thin. This place didn't ask many questions, and I didn't ask any back. The rehabilitation center used to handle long-term patients, stroke recovery, traumatic injuries, neurological cases that needed months, sometimes years of care. But funding dried up. The center shut down in phases, wing by wing, until only the administration offices and storage remained active. The patients were gone. That was emphasized during training. Every room cleared, every system powered down. Broken wiring left as is because there was no reason to fix it. My job was just to watch the building overnight and call security if something obvious went wrong. I work alone, midnight to 6. That matters. The first few nights were boring in the way you hope a night watch job will be. Fluorescent lights buzzing, the smell of antiseptic that never fully leaves places like this. My footsteps echoing down long, empty halls. I have insomnia, always have. I don't fall asleep easily, and when I do, it's light and broken. Night work suits me. Or at least it did before this place started acting occupied. The call lights turned on during my 4th shift. I was sitting at the front desk filling out the logbook when a soft chime sounded overhead. Once, then again. I froze with my pen halfway down the page. Patient call lights have a very specific sound. It's designed to be noticeable without being jarring. I'd heard it plenty of times in hospitals, visiting relatives. You don't forget it. The panel behind the desk lit up. Room 214, call active. That room is in the East Wing, the sealed wing. I stared at the panel, waiting for it to shut off. Old wiring does weird things. Power surges, false positives. That's what I told myself. The light stayed on. I grabbed the radio and did what I was trained to do. Control, this is Night Watch. I've got a call light active in the East Wing. Static. Then a bored voice. East Wing's offline. I know, I said, but the panel's showing an active call. Pause. Probably residual current, they said. Log it and reset if you want. Reset meant physically checking the room. I didn't like that part, but it was in the job description. I took the flashlight and headed down the hall. The East Wing always feels colder than the rest of the building. Not dramatically so, just enough that you noticed when you cross the threshold. The lights are dimmer too. Half of them burned out and were never replaced. Room 214 was at the far end. The door was unlocked. That was the first small thing that felt wrong. I'm sure I locked it during my first patrol. All sealed rooms were supposed to stay locked. Inside, the room smelled faintly warm. Not stale, not dusty, lived in. The bed sheets were rumpled. The pillow was indented. The blanket was folded back like someone had just swung their legs over the side and stood up. The call button on the rail was dark. No light. No active signal. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring at the bed, trying to convince myself there was a normal explanation. Maybe maintenance forgot to straighten the room after final discharge. Maybe the indentations never fully smoothed out. Then I noticed the chair. It had been pulled away from the wall. Not far, just enough to sit. I reset the panel manually and left. The light didn't come back on that night. The next night, it was room 221. Same wing, different hallway. Same chime, same soft glow on the panel. Same warm smell. Same bed that looked recently vacated. This time, there was a cup of water on the bedside table, half full. No dust, no film on the surface. The wiring in that room was visibly damaged, exposed conduits, cut lines. There should have been no power to the call button at all. I logged it, reset it, told myself someone was messing with me. By the end of the week, the pattern was clear. The lights only came on between 2 and 2:30 a.m. Never more than one at a time. Always in the sealed wing. Always in a room that looked like the patient had just stood up seconds before I arrived. And always, without fail, the bed was still warm. Last night it happened again. Room 203. The chime sounded while I was halfway through my coffee. My stomach dropped before I even saw the panel. I didn't call it in this time. I just went. The door was already open. The room was darker than the others. The overhead light wouldn't turn on. My flashlight beam swept across the bed. The sheets were pulled tight. No indentations. No warmth. I felt a strange sense of relief. Then the call light turned on. Not on the panel. On the bed rail. Right next to my hand. The chime sounded again, louder this time. From inside the room. Behind me. I didn't turn around. Every instinct screamed to, but something colder and quieter told me not to. The chime kept repeating behind me, soft and patient, like it had all the time in the world. I stared at the bed instead. The sheets were still tight, hospital corners sharp enough to cut paper. No warmth. No sign anyone had been there. Then the mattress dipped. Not suddenly, not violently, just a slow, careful depression near the edge, like someone easing themselves down, mindful of bad joints or old injuries. The bed rail creaked. The call light went dark. The room fell silent. I backed out without taking my eyes off the bed. My heel caught the threshold and I almost went down, heart slamming hard enough to make me dizzy. I didn't breathe until I was back in the hallway, doors shut between me and whatever had just sat down. I logged it as a malfunction. That was the lie I told the system. It was the only one it would accept. The rest of the shift passed without incident, but the building felt different after that. Less empty, like I'd been mistaken before and was only now noticing the truth. In the morning, I asked the day supervisor about the East Wing. He didn't look surprised. That scared me more than if he had. They were long-term, he said, shrugging. Some of them didn't want to leave. That's not how discharge works, I said. He met my eyes for a second too long. Some bodies leave before the habits do. I asked him about the wiring, about how the call lights could still function. They shouldn't, he said, which is why you don't reset them manually anymore. That wasn't in my training. That night, the call lights started earlier, 1:47 a.m., room 210. The panel lit up while I was mid-patrol, right in front of me, like it wanted to be seen. I stood there staring at it, waiting for the surge of dread to crest and break. It didn't. It just settled in, heavy and constant. I didn't go right away. I watched the panel instead. After a few minutes, another light flickered on. Room 211, call active. Then another, room 212. They weren't random, they were sequential. Down the hall, toward the nurse's station, toward me. I called it in. Control didn't answer. The radio crackled once, then went dead. The hallway lights dimmed, just a notch. Not enough to trigger emergency systems, enough to notice. I heard movement before I saw anything. Beds don't roll silently, even when they're empty. There's always a rattle, a squeak, a scuff against tile. These were quiet, controlled. The first bed emerged from room 210. No patient, no restraints, just a neatly made bed rolling into the hallway, stopping under its own power. Then another, and another. They lined up along the wall, call lights blinking softly, one after another, like they were waiting their turn. I stood frozen at the far end of the corridor, flashlight useless in my shaking hand. One bed moved again. The sheets shifted. A depression formed slowly in the mattress. Shoulders first, then hips, then legs. I heard breathing. Shallow, labored, familiar. A voice came from somewhere close, too close. "Nurse," it whispered. "I don't work medical. I never have." But my mouth answered anyway. "Yes." All the call lights went solid at once. And behind me, I felt the unmistakable pressure of a hand taking my wrist, guiding it gently downward, toward a call button I hadn't noticed blinking on my own sleeve. The button on my sleeve was warm. That detail stuck with me more than anything else. Not the beds moving on their own, not the voices, the warmth, like it had been pressed over and over again by hands that no longer felt pain the way they should. I ripped my arm free and stumbled backward. The pressure vanished instantly, like it had never been there. The hallway was full now. Beds lined both sides, perfectly spaced, sheets tight, pillows fluffed. Every call light glowing a steady, expectant yellow. The air smelled thicker, heavier. Not rot, not decay. Something clinical, antiseptic layered over old sweat in fear. "Nurse," the voice said again. It came from multiple directions this time. Same word, same tone, slightly out of sync. I backed away toward the nurse's station. My heel hit something solid. Another bed. I hadn't seen it move. The mattress dipped behind me. The sound was unmistakable. Weight settling, springs adjusting. I ran. I don't remember choosing a direction. I just moved, sprinting down the hall, past rooms that should have been empty. Doors stood open now. Inside, every bed looked occupied in the same subtle way. Sheets pulled back, indentations where bodies rested, IV poles standing at attention, bags swaying gently though there was no airflow. Call buttons blinked from every rail. I reached the nurse's station and slammed the door behind me, locked it, threw my weight against it until the frame rattled. The panel lit up like a Christmas tree. Every room in the East Wing was calling. The chime didn't sound in bursts anymore. It blended together into one continuous tone that set my teeth on edge. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from the walls. I slid down behind a desk, breathing hard, trying to think. The training manual sat open where I'd left it earlier. Pages curled, margins full of notes from people who no longer work here. One line caught my eye. In the event of system failure, do not acknowledge patient requests without medical staff present. I laughed. A short, broken sound. I wasn't medical staff. I wasn't supposed to be here at all. The chime cut out abruptly. The silence that followed felt worse. Then the radio crackled. "Night watch," Control said, voice distorted. "Status check." I grabbed the radio like it was a lifeline. "You need to get someone here, now. The East Wing are active," Control finished for me. "Yes, we know." My stomach dropped. "You know?" A pause. Static hissed softly. "They respond better if someone's on site," Control said. "Keeps them calm." "Respond to what?" I asked. The answer came slowly, carefully. Routine. The door to the station creaked. I looked up. It was opening from the inside. I hadn't unlocked it. The beds rolled closer, slow and orderly, stopping just outside the doorway. The call lights blinked in unison, like a heartbeat. A hand reached around the doorframe, pale, clean, nails trimmed short. Another followed. A figure leaned in, careful not to bump the frame. They wore a hospital gown, tied neatly, patient bracelet still on their wrist. The name had been rubbed away from use. Their eyes focused on me with practiced patience. "You're late," they said. Behind them, more shapes rose from the beds. Not fully, just enough to look at me. The radio slipped from my hand. Control spoke one last time before the line went dead. "Please," they said, "just answer the calls." The lights in the station flickered. Every call button went dark. And for the first time since I took this job, I realized the truth. The patients weren't calling for help. They were checking to see who was still on duty. I don't remember standing up. One moment I was crouched behind the desk, lungs burning, eyes locked on the doorway. The next, I was on my feet, smoothing the front of my jacket like I was reporting for a shift I'd worked 1,000 times before. The figure in the gown watched me with quiet approval. "That's better," they said. The beds rolled back as one, clearing a path down the hall. The call lights stayed dark, but I could feel them, waiting, charged, ready. I shook my head. "I'm not supposed to do this." They smiled gently, not kindly, reassuring in the way people are when they believe resistance is just confusion. "No one ever is," they said. "You'll learn." They turned and walked away. The others followed, slow and careful, beds gliding behind them like obedient animals. One by one, they returned to their rooms. Sheets lifted, mattresses dipped, pillows cradled heads that didn't need sleep anymore. The wing settled. The building exhaled. I stayed there until morning. When the day staff arrived, they barely looked at me. I stood behind the desk while they chatted about coffee and schedules. No one mentioned the East Wing. No one checked the logs. I handed in my badge at the end of the shift, told them I was done. The supervisor nodded. You stayed the whole night? Yes, I said. Good, he replied. That's important. I didn't go back the next night, or the night after that. I found another job, different hours, different building. I told myself it was over. It wasn't. The call light chime followed me. Not audibly, not at first, just a sense of expectation, of being needed, of someone waiting patiently for me to respond. 2 nights ago, I woke up at 2:11 a.m. sharp. I wasn't in bed. I was standing in my kitchen, hand resting on the wall at exactly the height a call button would be. There was a faint yellow glow on my skin. My phone buzzed. No number, no notification header, just one line of text. Room ready. Staff required. I didn't answer it. At 2:14, I felt it anyway. That familiar warmth under my fingertips. A gentle pressure, guiding my hand down, pressing. And somewhere far away, in a building I promised myself I'd never return to, a call light turned on. Just one. Patient waiting. Staff overdue.